That's a great question. I've been on a road trip through the mountains, 5,000, 9,000 feet. We don't know which car, but he says the car definitely feels a lot slower, like 50% down on power. Is the turbo not able to compensate for this, or is the elevation too high?
So the turbo is compensating for it.
Yeah.
You get into a point though. Again, we don't know what vehicle this is, but the turbo is operating on a pressure differential, so it can make X amount of pressure above and beyond what the atmosphere is basically. So as you go up in altitude, if there's not a bunch of headroom in what the turbo can provide, then yeah, it's going to drop your overall power output. Factory, that's usually less of a it's less noticeable factory because they leave headroom in the turbo to accommodate for that. When it gets tuned, that headroom basically gets consumed, and the turbo is doing most everything it can typically
Yeah.
at sea level. So as you go up, we pull down or have to pull down those pressure ratios, or this pressure ratio. Sorry, it gets a little weird. The pressure ratio stays the same. The actual like pressure inside your intake manifold though is reduced, and so your overall power is reduced. So it's just a function of how much air that turbo can pump and how much air there is
Yeah.
for it to pump.
Yeah, and especially on a tuned car, even though the turbo can keep up with that pressure ratio, it's much less efficient. So it's producing more heat, which can reduce the power. Think of it this way: as you, if you are able, let's say, jump 24 inches, you know, and as you, um, and there's a hole that you're standing in that just keeps getting deeper. You can still jump 24 inches, but you're only gonna, if the hole's 6 inches deep, you're only gonna be jumping 18 inches above the ground now. And so it's the same thing with the turbo. The turbo is still producing all that airflow, but it's now at it standing in a hole essentially. The other thing is the turbo can do quite a bit of compensating, but your normally aspirated function is going to go down, and so until you get into the boost and that period where you're kind of off boost and rolling into it, you're going to be down
Yeah.
substantially. And I could see you at 9,000 feet being down 50% power
Or
from
it'll
normally
still feel like
aspirated.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Um,
would be surprised at 9,000 feet if you were down anywhere near 50%. I guess it would probably be more like 20% or something like that. But given the fact that the turbo is working so much harder, it's less efficient in producing more heat. It's just not going to feel as fast. Your intercooler system is going to be more taxed. Um,
and
a turbo is going to make up for a lot of it, but you will start feeling
yeah,
it.
second to that, one thing that a lot of people don't realize is when you're at altitude is everything is less efficient. All of your heat transferring devices are less efficient as
Yeah,
well.
it's
There's
less
less
air.
air going
Yep.
across your intercooler, your
Yeah.
radiator. So he's counterintuitive as it feels like, oh, my car's making less power. Your car can make less power and overheat easier at the same
Yeah.
time at higher altitudes. That's a big challenge at like the mile high races in Denver and whatnot.
Hmm.
Is keeping vehicles cooled. Even normally aspirated stuff that's making less power, but you also have that
Yeah.
much less cooling capacity for shedding it because you've got less air molecules that's ripping past your heat
Yeah.
exchangers.
And 9,000 feet's getting up there. You're definitely,
Yeah,
I mean, you're going to feel it just walking,
yeah,
up a flight of stairs. You're going to feel it. Your car is going to be feeling it too.
hmm,
So elevation's a real interesting
yep,
dynamic. Something I want to expand on a little bit. You touched on. A lot of people are like, why does the factory leave so much room in the turbo
hmm,
system? And that's one of the main reasons is if the turbo is only operating really at 50% of its potential, then you could go to 12,000, 15,000 feet, and you still have a lot of turbo headroom to tap into for those type of conditions. It's also more reliable to run a turbo at 50% than at 90%.
yep,
Not a lot more reliable. Like it's not like our tunes, or our competitors' tunes, which push the turbo kind of towards the top of its range, are unreliable. But when you're talking about failures out of a million cars, it's going to be higher than if you're running, 50%. So as tuners and calibrators, thankfully most of the people who want to tune cars live at or around sea level. We're able to tap into that extra potential and give you that extra power. But when you go to elevation, rarely, we don't hear about this often, but the rare occasion someone does that, you're going to lose that additional headroom because you're already realizing it at sea level
Mhm.
or at lower elevation.
Yep.